To me, forgetting about Shabbos at a time of economic crisis, this is not the time to make any controversial decision. We need every dollar and every donor in order to stay afloat. We cannot afford to alienate anyone. What is the emergency that this decision has to be made now? Does anyone really think the JCC is going to go under? We are a consensus organization. That means we look to never rock the boat. This is absolutely the worst time to be considering such a decision. We cannot, as associated board members, risk the funding of the rest of our agencies and their clients because of the decision of one agency, even if we might personally agree with that agency's decision. To act in this manner places the Associated at great risk, and therefore, as a fiduciary of the Associated, I contend that such action is irresponsible and reckless. The proposed opening of the JCC on Shabbos goes beyond the compelling financial arguments against it. Here I will try to explain why on metaphysical terms. First, some background. We were raised in a Western libertarian society that is only 300 years old. In America, history often means no more than who won the game yesterday. The future is short-term, often not beyond the next quarter's earnings, certainly not more than a few years. Furthermore, our society is built on freedom. You are free to climb a tree as long as you don't fall on my head. If I'm not harmed, it's not my concern what you do. Judaism also celebrates freedom, but adds a layer of shared responsibility and the weight of history in defining what we do as Jews. What you do does impact me, sometimes in ways that are not apparent on the surface. To understand the deeper meaning, let me share with you some context. Imagine that we're living 300 years ago, well before Koch's postulates on the germ theory of disease were described. I ask you, how does one become ill? I then respond that little invisible organisms, not seen by your naked eye but floating everywhere, are inhaled and make you sick. Because you never heard of this, you think I'm nuts and declare that everyone knows you get sick because the Jews poisoned the wells. How many of us have seen an electron photomicrograph of a pathogenic virus? Probably very few. Yet we all accept this theory because we rely on people with knowledge and expertise that we ourselves do not have. I see this every day in my medical practice. People let me stick needles in their eyes and inject chemicals 20 to 30 times each day. Why? Despite my best efforts to explain what and why I'm doing to them, at the end of the day, they really don't understand the science. Yet they consent because they trust that I have studied these disciplines that are foreign to them, and therefore they trust that I have acquired a level of expertise in an area they do not have expertise or even familiarity. If you trust me in the physical, then I ask that you now also trust me in the metaphysical, even though, like medicine, it might be uncharted and unfamiliar territory for you. Call it Kabbalah Light or Kabbalah 101. When a Jew does a mitzvah, it has an impact on many levels. It uplifts and perfects the person performing the mitzvah, deepening one's attachment to God. However, it works in other realms, such as perfecting the world, what we call fondly tikkun olam. When it affects the world in a direct way, it's clear for all of us to see. However, because we as Jews are connected to one another metaphysically, it also impacts us in ways that are not visible on the surface. The Talmud tells us, Kol Yisrael arevim ze lezeh, all Jews are responsible or guarantors for one another. If a Jew does a mitzvah in Baltimore, it affects a Jew in Tashkent, because we are connected one to the other. We sense this when we give tzedakah. That is why we feel so uplifted when we help a total stranger in Ashkelon, because he is really not a stranger any more than the left hand is a stranger to the right foot. We are part of one body, the body of the Jewish people. When a Jew does any mitzvah anywhere, it not only strengthens him and his connection to God, it strengthens the entire Jewish people. Similarly, when a Jew transgresses a commandment, it distances him from God and also weakens the connection of the entire Jewish people to the Master of the universe. This approach not only holds true on the individual level, but assumes greater magnitude on the community level. We understand this every day. While one can pray anywhere, anytime by yourself, the prayer is elevated and takes on greater import when it is done communally with a quorum of Jews better known as a minyan. So we have two levels, the individual and the communal. What I do does impact you, and what we do as a community impacts us all even more. How might this apply to us now? We live in very turbulent economic times. Somehow, Baltimore seems to have been spared much of the pain. Very prominent federations have been humbled. Their campaigns are down, they are laying off staff and cutting vital services and programming. We, on the other hand, continue to flourish and meet our funding goals. Why? I'm sure there are many factors. Perhaps it's our leadership. I think we are blessed with the most outstanding leadership anywhere. But are we really smarter than the leaders of LA or Cleveland? Perhaps we have industries less vulnerable to recession. Or perhaps it is something else. Perhaps we are blessed by God because of our unity, because we, unlike most communities, are faithful to Shabbos by keeping our communal institutions closed. Shabbat observance is not about refraining from creative activity. Eating or even exercising the body is actually Owings Shabbat, enhancing the pleasure of Shabbat, however you choose to define it, not Shmirat Shabbat, keeping Shabbat. If you plop a Martian down here and ask him whether a day is different when the observed activities are exactly the same as all the other days, he will tell you it's not different. Shabbat is an os, a sign, and to be a sign there must be a demonstrable and observable difference. 6 days you are open and 1 day you are not. That is Shmirat Shabbat. That's what I do in my medical practice, even though I might have more patients if I were open on Saturdays, not that I would know what to do with them. We have a saying that more than the Jews have kept Shabbos, Shabbos has kept the Jews. Maybe that is what we are seeing in Baltimore. Are you so certain that I am wrong that you're willing to take a chance and throw this away? What if I'm right? Then what? Do we want to risk becoming the next Cleveland? Whether you accept the metaphysical explanation or not, I think it's important that you understand it and understand how seriously and sincerely this is treated in the Orthodox community. In summary, to my friends in black hats and black coats, the issue is not unity. To my friends in JCC shorts, the issue is not uniformity. These are important subplots. From where I sit, whether here in Jerusalem or in Baltimore, the only issue is the future of our community and the vitality of the Associated. The two are intertwined. Therefore, as fiduciaries of the Associated, we must reject anything that threatens the ongoing strength of our beloved Associated to live up to its holy mission. It is irresponsible of us to entertain any proposal that has not been properly and thoroughly researched and developed, no matter how noble the intended goals. It is reckless of us to consider any motion without careful consideration and credible projections of the impact of such a decision on our core objectives and our abilities to sustain them. This proposal, as currently constituted, has too many unanswered questions and too many risks. In its present form, despite our personal feelings, we have no choice but to reject it. We cannot afford to flirt with failure, particularly in these tumultuous and uncertain economic times. With my respect to my friends at the JCC, I applaud your attentions evenly, even as I utterly must reject your proposed methods because of all the unanswered questions and the unacceptable risk your proposal poses to the Associated's ability to meet the needs of all of our agencies and all of those who depend on us. However, I propose an alternate for your consideration. 12 years ago, our community was granted a gift that I must confess we squandered. We failed to reach out to one another. We failed to enlighten and enrich so many with the Shabbos experience. Personally, I worry that after 120 years, when I meet my Maker, God will say to me, Michael, I gave you the resources, I gave you the talent, I gave you the ability, I gave you the friends, and what did you do with all this? You made one nice Shabbat in Yerushalayim. Why did you stop? Why didn't you continue? And I will have no answer, because as of yet, there is no answer. Please now extend the gift you granted 12 years ago. Whenever you have asked me to do something, I've always come through, whether it was Ashkelon or Hillel. I've never let you down. For those of you who joined us here for Shabbat, you know I can do it. Help me, please. I will do everything in my power to extend it to all of Baltimore, because Shabbat is a treasure that belongs to all the Jewish people, not just the Orthodox. You have my word on that. Finally, even though I am not a rabbi, allow me to grant us all a blessing and bracha from Yerushalayim, the source of all that is holy and dear to all of us. We need the blessing because we bear a heavy burden. We are the latest link in a glorious chain through history. Our ancestors buried over there are looking at us. Our children and grandchildren are looking at us. The world is looking at us. Yes, I believe even God is looking at what we're going to do. This is not just a vote, it is a decision that will echo through the annals of history. That is a heavy weight for us to carry individually and collectively. Therefore, I pray that God grant us the wisdom and courage to look into our neshamas, our souls, to make the right decision for our community and make our ancestors and descendants proud. May God continue to shower us with the blessings of civil discourse, fraternity, brotherhood, and love, and may his countenance continue to crown our efforts with success.